Hello. The deep male voice that answered my wife's hotel room phone at 10 p.m. wasn't hers. My blood went cold as I heard muffled whispers in the background. Then Victoria's panicked voice. Michael? Why are you calling the hotel? That's when 8 years of marriage shattered with a single phone call. Welcome. This is Cheating Facts, real accounts of deception and justice. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I'm here to share true stories of betrayal and the pursuit of truth. What you just heard was the moment my entire world collapsed. But it was also the beginning of uncovering an elaborate web of lies that went far deeper than I ever imagined. My name is Michael, and for 8 years, I thought I had the perfect marriage with my wife, Victoria. She was a marketing director at a pharmaceutical company, ambitious, successful, and someone I completely trusted. We'd built what I thought was an unshakable foundation of honesty and commitment. I was about to discover how wrong I'd been. Victoria had always traveled occasionally. For work, maybe once every few months for conferences or client meetings. It was part of her job, and I'd never questioned it. She'd call me every night. We'd talk about her day, and everything seemed normal. But about 6 months ago, something started to change. The business trips became more frequent. What used to be quarterly became monthly, then sometimes twice a month. When I mentioned it seemed like a lot of travel. Victoria explained that her company was expanding into new markets and she was leading several key initiatives. It made sense. She was talented and driven. I was proud of her success, even though it meant more time apart. But other things started changing too. Victoria became protective of her phone in ways she'd never been before. She'd take it with her to the bathroom, sleep with it face down. And I noticed she'd started getting text messages late at night that she'd quickly dismiss as work emergencies. When I'd ask about her day, her answers became vague and short. The most telling change was in our relationship itself. Victoria seemed distant, distracted. Our conversations became surface level. She'd come home from these trips exhausted, but also oddly energetic, like she was running on some kind of high. When I'd try to be affectionate or intimate, she'd often claim she was too tired or stressed from work. I started noticing small details that bothered me. She'd bought new lingerie, but never wore it at home. Her work clothes became more fashionable and expensive. She'd come back from business trips with stories about restaurants and experiences that seemed too elaborate for standard work dinners. But every time I questioned anything, Victoria made me feel like I was being paranoid and unsupportive. 3 months ago, Victoria announced another business trip, this time to Chicago for a pharmaceutical industry conference. She'd be gone for 4 days, staying at the Palmer House Hotel. Something about this trip felt different from the start. She seemed more excited than usual, spending extra time choosing outfits and even buying new clothes, specifically for the conference. The night before she left, I tried to have a serious conversation about us. I told her I felt like we'd been drifting apart, that I missed the closeness we used to have. Victoria's response was dismissive and almost cruel. She said I was being clingy and paranoid, that work was demanding right now, and that I needed to stop questioning her every move. She made me feel like I was the problem, like my concerns were unreasonable. Victoria left for Chicago on a Tuesday morning. That first night, I called her around 9 p.m., our usual check-in time. The call went straight to voicemail. I figured she might be at a conference dinner or networking event. When she called me back around midnight, she explained she'd been in meetings that ran late, then had mandatory client dinners. Her voice sounded different, rushed, breathless, almost guilty. Wednesday night, the same pattern repeated. No answer at our usual time. A brief callback near midnight with vague explanations about work obligations and networking events. But here's what made me truly suspicious. In the background of that call, I heard music and laughter that didn't sound like any business dinner I'd ever attended. It sounded intimate, romantic. When I asked about the background noise, Victoria quickly said it was just the hotel restaurant and abruptly ended the call. Thursday morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I'd never been a suspicious husband, never checked up on Victoria or doubted her word. But every instinct I had was screaming that something was wrong. I spent the morning trying to convince myself I was overreacting, but the feeling only got stronger. By afternoon, I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to call the Palmer House Hotel directly and ask to be connected to Victoria's room. I told myself I just wanted to surprise her with a sweet call. But deep down, I think I knew I was looking for answers. I called the hotel around 6 p.m. Chicago time. The operator was professional and helpful. She confirmed that Victoria Chen was registered as a guest and offered to transfer my call to her room. My heart was pounding as I heard the connection go through. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then someone answered. "Hello," came a deep, obviously male voice, sounding relaxed and comfortable. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. This wasn't a wrong number or a mistake. This was a man answering my wife's hotel room phone, and he sounded like he belonged there. I managed to stammer. "I think I have the wrong room." I was trying to reach Victoria Chun. There was a pause, and I could hear muffled conversation in the background. Someone was whispering urgently. Then Victoria came on the line, and her voice was pure panic. "Michael, why are you calling the hotel? How did you get this number?" "Victoria, who answered your phone?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. "What? Oh, that was room service. They must have transferred your call to the wrong room first, then connected you to mine." But even as she said it, I could tell she was lying. The explanation made no sense. Room service doesn't answer guest room phones, and the voice I'd heard was intimate, comfortable, like someone who had every right to be there. "Victoria, stop lying to me. I need you to tell me the truth right now. Who was in your room with you?" The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear her breathing, could practically feel her panic through the phone. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she said, "Michael, I can't do this over the phone. We'll talk when I get home tomorrow. I have to go." The line went dead. That's when I knew with absolute certainty that my wife was having an affair. She was in Chicago with another man, sharing a hotel room while lying to my face about business conferences and professional obligations. 8 years of marriage, and she was betraying everything we'd built together. I didn't sleep that night. I spent hours pacing our house, thinking about all the signs I'd missed or ignored. The increased travel, the phone secrecy, the emotional distance, the way she'd been dressing differently for these trips, the expensive new clothes and lingerie that never appeared at home. Everything made horrible, crystal clear sense now. When Victoria came home Friday evening, I was waiting in our living room. I'd spent the day preparing for this conversation, and I had one simple, direct question. "Are you having an affair?" She tried to deny it at first, sticking to her ridiculous story about room service and wrong connections. But when I pressed her for details, which room service employee answered her phone, why he sounded so comfortable and familiar, why she'd been so panicked and defensive, her story completely fell apart. Finally, Victoria broke down and admitted everything. She'd been having an affair for 4 months with James Morrison, the regional sales director at her company. It had started at a company retreat in Denver, developed into regular secret meetings during fabricated business trips, and had become a full-blown relationship, complete with romantic getaways and future plans. The Chicago trip wasn't even a real conference. Victoria and James had completely fabricated the entire business justification so they could spend 4 days together in a luxury hotel. Victoria had been using company resources, falsifying expense reports, and lying to both her employer and her husband to maintain this elaborate affair. What hurt most wasn't just the betrayal. It was discovering the incredible level of deception involved. Victoria had looked me in the eye for months, telling me detailed lies about conferences that didn't exist, meetings that were actually romantic dinners, and business obligations that were really weekend getaways with her lover. She'd created an entire alternate reality to cover her tracks. But Victoria's confession revealed something she hadn't considered in her planning. James Morrison was married too. His wife, Sarah, had no idea about the affair. Victoria assumed I would want to keep everything quiet, maybe try marriage counseling, work things out privately to avoid embarrassment. She was completely wrong about my response. The next morning, I took action on 3 fronts. First, I contacted a divorce attorney and began documenting everything. Victoria had confessed about the affair, including dates, locations, and financial details. Second, I researched James Morrison and found his company contact information and home address. Third, I located his wife, Sarah, on social media and sent her a carefully worded private message explaining that her husband was having an affair with my wife. Sarah Morrison called me within 2 hours of receiving my message. She was devastated but incredibly grateful that someone had finally told her the truth. It turned out James had been exhibiting all the same suspicious behaviors. I'd noticed increased travel, phone secrecy, emotional distance, and unexplained absences. She'd suspected something was wrong, but hadn't had concrete evidence. My hotel room phone call had inadvertently provided proof for both of our situations. Sarah and I decided to coordinate our responses and share information. Together, we began gathering comprehensive evidence: hotel reservation records, company travel expense reports, credit card statements showing personal charges on business trips, and phone records. The paper trail was extensive and absolutely damning. Here's what Victoria and James hadn't considered in their affair planning. They were conducting their relationship partially on company time and using company resources. They'd charged romantic dinners to business accounts, used corporate travel budgets for personal getaways, and had been systematically falsifying expense reports for months. Sarah contacted James's company first, since she had more detailed financial evidence of the expense, fraud, and policy violations. The company launched an immediate internal investigation. Within 1 week, both Victoria and James were suspended pending the outcome of the review. The investigation revealed that their affair had compromised multiple business decisions and created serious conflicts of interest. James had been giving Victoria's department preferential treatment in budget allocations and project assignments. Victoria had been sharing confidential information from her company with James, creating potential ethical violations and competitive advantages that affected both companies. Both of them were terminated within 2 weeks. James lost his regional director position and was blacklisted from several pharmaceutical industry networks due to the ethics violations. Victoria was fired for falsifying expense reports, misusing company resources, and violating professional conduct policies, making it extremely difficult for her to find similar positions in her field. The professional consequences extended far beyond just losing their jobs. The pharmaceutical industry is surprisingly small and interconnected. Word spread quickly through professional networks about their affair and the circumstances surrounding their terminations. Both Victoria and James found their professional reputations severely damaged. Within their industry, Victoria begged me to reconsider the divorce, claiming the affair was completely over and she wanted to work things out. She promised counseling, complete transparency, and whatever it would take to rebuild trust. But the level of calculated deception involved made reconciliation impossible for me. This wasn't a single mistake or moment of weakness. It was months of elaborate planning, systematic lying, and complete disregard for our marriage vows. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. Victoria had to move back in with her parents while searching for work in a completely different industry. James and Sarah are also divorced now, and from what Sarah tells me, he struggled to find employment at his previous level due to the professional ethics violations following him. Looking back, I realized that one phone call, my decision to trust my instincts and call Victoria's hotel room when something felt wrong, unraveled an elaborate deception that might have continued for years. My gut told me something wasn't right, and for the first time in our marriage, I decided to trust those instincts over Victoria's explanations and manipulations. The hardest part wasn't discovering the affair itself, it was realizing how thoroughly and skillfully Victoria had been deceiving me. Every business trip, every late-night call, every explanation about work stress had been part of an intricate cover story designed to hide her double life. The woman I thought I knew and loved simply didn't exist. But I learned something crucial about myself through this painful experience. I deserve honesty, respect, and faithfulness in a relationship. When someone shows you through their actions that they don't respect you, your marriage, or your trust, believe what they're showing you. Trust your instincts, even when it's easier or more comfortable to ignore them. Today, I'm rebuilding my life with a much clearer understanding of my own worth and what I expect from relationships. The betrayal was absolutely devastating, but it also freed me from a marriage that was built on lies, deception, and fundamental disrespect. Victoria's business trip romance didn't just backfire when I called her hotel, it completely destroyed the elaborate double life she thought she could maintain indefinitely. Sometimes the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how carefully people think they've covered their tracks, and one unexpected phone call can bring down months of careful planning. If you're experiencing betrayal or dealing with suspicious behavior from a partner, trust your instincts. You deserve complete honesty and transparency, and you deserve so much, better than elaborate deceptions disguised as business obligations and professional responsibilities. That's my story of how one phone call exposed everything. Comment below and share where you're watching from. And let me know if you've ever had to trust your gut when something felt wrong in your relationship. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories of betrayal, deception, and the pursuit of truth.